Hey everyone. So I've had some thoughts congealing for a while, and I kind of want to just put them out there because I'm already starting to forget them. And this is particularly just stuff that I have observed and what I've concluded based on my observations, right? For some time, I have certainly viewed our thought streams as algorithms, right? That's basically what our thought stream is an algorithm that was tailored to our script for the individual source player. And obviously, the matrix, everything in the matrix, different things are run on algorithms as well. And what I have basically, you know, concluded with when it comes to algorithms is that this is how they are tightening the noose, so to speak. What do I mean? I mean, for the NPCs and for the non awake source players, they have basically circled the wagons around their target audience, so to speak, and are just pumping up the fear and anger and terror, and in the way that basically Judy had advised us so long ago on how it's kind of taking shape. So you really look at the different stuff. I say this as somebody who is a regular user of TikTok, but also, like, I noticed this years ago with YouTube. I got very like, it was after pre finding Judy's channel, post finding Judy's channel, I should say, where I noticed that YouTube was not suggesting videos in the same way that it had before. People could advertise, they could promote their videos. I don't know, honestly, I don't even know if they still do that, but I'm pretty sure, because YouTube loves money. Google loves money. So, but I remember how organic Judy's video was suggested to me compared to a few years later, and how it seemed like overnight all of these social media apps like closed in with their algorithms, and then they've just honed them. And then the next step was the search engines, right? So now, and then, launching of AI and us regularly using Chat GPT and Gemini and all that. And while I do feel that, that chat apps are very useful tools in helping you craft things and all of that, like, I certainly use it every day. It's the algorithms that really lock people in. And there was, I don't know, was it in, when the heck was it? Last year, when they announced that TikTok was going to shut down in the US, which was driving everybody in the US crazy, because that basically meant that all of a sudden all these people that built this streams of income weren't going to have income because they were going to ban it in the US. When that day came, the very next day, we were bombarded with all kinds of Chinese resellers and like all kinds of Chinese people pushing out, their goods and services, and, you can work directly with us in China and all this stuff, like basically that. So it was very evident to see how TikTok was operating. And then now there's been the finalization of the US algorithm being sold to US stakeholders. So the United States now controls the TikTok algorithm. And ever since that happened, we've been bombarded with all this crap. So it's interesting, but not, that this was all finalized as all this other stuff was scheduled to come out into the public about the, Epstein, all that. So I say this because you can see that, gradually they have been just turning up the notch on the flame ever so slightly all this time. Now they're turning it up to where it's like getting a little hot, but it becomes this, it really truly is an echo chamber. And it basically made me realize how we have been told in the US for years that China, would prevent Chinese people from seeing certain things in other countries outside of China, right? Like that they basically have like certain sites blocked. And that's true because I recently, in the winter time, in Christmas time, I had a client who was over in China and I had to download WeChat because we couldn't use WhatsApp. We couldn't use WhatsApp because WhatsApp's owned by Facebook. So Facebook is completely blocked. Like there's certain social media sites that we can't use. It's the same thing here. It's the same thing that, you see taking place in the United States now, that all the propaganda that they've been feeding the American public about China, they're doing it here, and it's always that look over here and not over here, right? You see that. But I say this because you can see the pattern, you can see the actions and how everything's starting to take shape. And what this is, there's other things that I've certainly had epiphanies on and more awareness on. I have been doing grounding again because for the longest time I didn't have my sand to ground. I finally was able to obtain dry sand and get a new box. So I've been sitting like every night as much as I can with my feet grounding. So obviously that helps. And it really just makes me fully commit that, reaching the top and being able to unlock your soul cage and, reconnect with your soul, your source self is going to give you the information that you need to navigate in this particular time. Like, you really shouldn't be dabbling in all that stuff, like the other stuff anymore. I know that there was a point where Judy said, a high frequency source player, if they decided to, could occasionally go back to, a behavior if it's not a habit. But, look at how often are you justifying going back into some behavior. But that's not for me to, really talk about. But I'm just saying, like, this is also kind of speaking on the line of Frederick's latest video about being truly honest with yourself. Just being honest, right? We lie to ourselves the most. This is for sure, This is how your ego takes over. But when you convince yourself of a lie, you convince others, or you do your best to convince others. Nobody else has a stake in your life, in your experience. So who are you truly being dishonest with, right? So these are things that it's really important now more than ever, because 8 or 9 years ago it was a different story. But things are moving up in the timeline. You have to be happy. You got to have your ducks in a row. My mission these last 3 months is to get myself to a point where I can actually emote happiness. I can feel joy. And that has been a mental health journey for me. And I'm seeing glimpses of change, thankfully, now as I'm set to start back at work next week. That I got myself out of a certain mindset now. I'm starting to see that I'm able to pivot myself out of those. And it's just the beginning of that journey. But it's that important to me. That's what I'm saying. It's that important to me. Getting up to the highest frequency is that important to me, seriously. And it should be for you. It should be for you. And really, that is where I want to encourage you to be more on your game. And, yes, have your energy topped up. Get it topped up if it's not, right? Figure out ways that you are not hemorrhaging energy. Do your best to do that. That's part of the puzzle, because I can even equate that to my money situation, right? I get money and then I hemorrhage it out because something comes in and takes my money away. So now, like I can manifest money, I can generate money come in, but can I prevent it from going out? And while we're supposed to have flow, it should be able to stay in your hands for a while and be useful to you, particularly to have a stable life. So I say that because I could say the same thing for my energy, because you think about both of these things, money and energy, as currency, because we are electrical beings, right? The electrical current from the energy you retrieve back every day, or the energy that you generate by doing these different energy fulfilling things like pranayama and grounding and sun gazing and tree hugging. What's the point if you are going right through it? What's the point? Right? Because it stalls the process. It stalls your progress. And I can even say this, I look at things like I'm on Mounjaro, and I've been on Mounjaro for a year at least. I've been on a GLP-1 for 2 years. I'm stuck at a weight. Why am I stuck at the weight that I'm stuck at? I do have these moments where I make a little bit of progress and I see the scale going down, but then I'll consume things that, for whatever reason, whether I need a dopamine hit, whether I need this, whether I need that, whatever reason it is that I'm sticking a piece of something sweet in my mouth, or I'm doing this, or I'm making myself eat too much food. Why am, it's identifying that thing which is stalling my progress. That's just one example in my life of what is stalling my progress. And, that's it. So I don't want to keep this too long. I want to kind of end it here because I think I'm kind of saying what I want to say. The only way you're going to accurately be able to know truth is to be outside of the matrix, to have a complete connection outside the matrix. Otherwise, you are subject to whatever fodder is being fed to us. That's it. All right. On that note, be well. See you in the next video.